Call to order the Wytheville Town Council meeting Monday, November 13th, 2023 at 5 p.m. held in the municipal building at 150 East Monroe Street, Wytheville, Virginia. We do have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Gary Gilman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next on the agenda is actually to approve the agenda.
Madam Chairman, I would like to amend the agenda tonight to include the following. In open session, amend the holiday hours for December 22nd from a half a day, which is 4-hour holiday, to a whole 8-hour day. And the second amendment, in a closed session, pursuant to Code 2.23711A3, discussion regarding the acquisition and disposition of real property to be used for a public purpose.
So I have a motion to amend the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any dialogue, questions?
Mayor Taylor, I was going to ask during my council member time, I was also going to ask if we could consider also, instead of a half a day on the 22nd for Thanksgiving, if we could go ahead and make that a full day.
So do I need to amend that, or can I take bringing it up on councilwoman?
Well, however, I mean, since maybe if we're doing the December.
Paul, you want to weigh in on, you can amend, ask to request to amend the motion?
You could, yes, would you be inclined to amend your?
Certainly. I'll be glad to. Yes, sir. Thank you.
And whoever needs to confirm, Mr. Gilman needs to confirm the second.
Okay, I would like to amend their motion for the 22nd and add also December the 22nd for a full day.
That's what my motion
Your
was.
December 22nd? I thought you said November.
I apologize, but I thought I said December.
Okay, December, I wanted them to have a full day
Yeah.
off.
That was what my motion.
I thought I misunderstood you then.
All right, so we have amendments to the agenda. And Holly, I don't think we figured yours out. So will you tell me again?
I'm sorry.
Will you tell me again what?
Yes, ma'am, I will. I'd like to, instead of doing a half a day on the 22nd for Thanksgiving in November, I would like to make that a full day, please. That was just in my council thing that I was going to ask. Thank you.
So to make sure we're clear, we would have a full day for November 22nd and a full day for December 22nd. Are we clear on that?
That's what the amendments are. And then when we get down to talking about them and voted on them,
Thank you, Mayor Taylor.
well, all right. We have motions, we have seconds. Is there any further discussion? This will need to be a roll call vote. Mr. Gilman?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
All right, thank you all. Next on the agenda is a consent agenda, which consists of minutes of the special town council meeting on October 11th, 2023. This requires a motion. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. This will require a motion and just a plain vote. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye as well. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Next on the agenda is citizens' time, and we do have a couple of people that have written in that they would like to speak during citizens' time. So I'll go in order as written. And so first would be Mr. Hank Ball. If you'll come to the podium, state your name and your address, and thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I might not even be in the right place, but I'm going to speak this anyways. I believe I should take this to the Housing Authority is what I understand. I live at 131 Hedgefield Apartments here in town, and I have done so for 8 years. I see what goes on there every night. The staff comes in the morning, goes home at 4:30. They're not there on the weekends, and they're not there for the holidays. There's been a lot of transient people in town, vagrants, belongings in a black garbage bag, roaming, waking up. I had to wake them up on the steps of the hallways and have them ask them to leave. And then I have to worry about retaliation. So there's mainly old people there, except for the young, clever ones who figured out how to work the system, and they're living there as well and bringing all of their friends with them. Safety is an issue. I speak with all of my fellow tenants there on a regular basis, called gossip. We talk, what's going on. The office isn't offering much help. We can't do anything. It's the tenant landlord, conundrum there. The laundry rooms used to be available at all times of the day. They are now locked, except during business hours, locked on the weekends because transients have broken in them. They've defecated and urinated in the place. They have stolen our American flag off the flagpole next to the office. So it can't go on. There's drug activity there. Everybody that lives there knows it. The office can't do anything about it. Just came from the eye doctor, so visibility isn't very good. The ludicrous part is that they've done a great job. This town has been fantastic, and especially on that property there. That's their main property. And siding, we've got new roofs. We've had everything that we could upgrade it. They put in light standards with cameras on them. Great. The cameras do not work. That is the rub. It's ludicrous to have these tools at our use and have them not functioning. That's just an unacceptable excuse. If there's someday there's a lot of drug people there. I've woken them up sleeping in, like I said, in the hallway. I don't know where they come from. They bring the shopping carts from the dollar store. They come and they go. And if someone gets assaulted or, God forbid, a homicide, the first thing the detectives are going to ask are, I want to see the footage from that camera. And what's it going to be like to say they're not working in this day and age with this? And they're modern. They just been put in a year or so ago. The answer from the office is, and this is Bonnie Brewer and the Housing Authority over there, is that the company that installed them went out of business. Other companies don't want to work on them because it's not their equipment. Catch-22. But that's not going to serve us if something happens and we can't provide information to adjudicate, follow through and prosecute people. And an example needs to be made. So my request is simple: get the cameras fixed. This is our town. These people are coming from all over this town. I know it's a housing authority deal, and I will take it to them now that I know that. But the police activity, if you went to the police station and looked at their records, they get called there quite often. The EMS, it's just a busy place for that kind of thing. So I'm requesting more police presence. Drive through the place. If they see you, they scatter like rats. They don't like light. They don't like being observed. They're shadow people, the midnight creepers, I call them. So a little presence on the patrolling, just come through there. If the word gets out, the word is out now that the cameras don't work, that they can do what they're doing, and they'll push that as far as they can until something stops them. And it's not a comfortable place to operate. And that's the word I want to get out. The police are there all the time. Don't go over there. And that's enough of that. But the cameras is imperative, because if I come out someday and my glass is shattered or my tires are slashed, I surely would like to be able to find out who did that and follow through, and then other than just making an insurance claim. And if I could be directed, if I need to take this to the specific housing authority, WRHA, then I need some directions. I just need directions on who to speak with. Randy Martin, nothing. So I don't know where else to go. It's Randy Martin, it's Bonnie Brewer, but they're all short-termers, or she's leaving in March. I've been a short-termer. Just checking the calendar. We don't want to open up any cans of worms. But for my safety, my disabled wife lives there, and 85-year-old women, we're just all potential victims. And this element that's around, and I know it's a county-wide problem, probably. It's a nation problem. It's a world problem. But in our little corner of the woods, maybe we can just, because I'm all for law enforcement. I think in here, I think I can still do it, but I'm not as good as I once was, and I can't back it up, but I still got the mouth. So thank you for your time and consideration. Hank Ball, Ball.
And the council may have some things to ask you. But
Sure.
You and I can get together and you share some contact information.
Absolutely. Tonight, afterwards, another
You want
time,
to just write it down?
you will call me, or
We'll get in touch.
you want me to write down what I just said?
No.
Oh.
Just how I can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Contact information.
So he's the town He's the town manager. So
Okay.
he's going to get in touch with you and
What would you want?
And help you.
Anything you want to share.
Well,
I just didn't want you to say it over there.
Will you get in touch with me?
Yeah.
And we'll speak? Okay, I'll just.
And Mr. Ball, I also know that there's a Regina Pike that works out there, too.
Regina Pike.
Regina Pike.
Works
yes,
in that
sir.
office?
Yes, sir.
Never seen her.
But I do know that she works there. And
I know Bonnie and Melanie. That's all I deal with. So, the rest is hearsay.
Mr. Ball, I'm sorry that you all are having these problems. Your
Well,
safety.
There's people where there's
concern.
older. There's a little. I live next to a nice little old lady, 85 years old. Lived in this town her whole life. Been at that apartment complex 25 years. But as you get older, you're more frail. You're more vulnerable, and they're younger, and they're hanging around, and you can profile them as they're walking through the property. They don't belong there.
Right.
But they have a friend here and there, and the authority doesn't seem to, they have the tenant landlord thing where you can't go in a house, you can't be making house checks and stuff like that. But there are things we can do. Just probably just scare them away. They're not very bright people anyway. So just the presence of police officers patrolling through there, the word gets out on the street that stay away from that place because they're watching.
Your safety is a concern, and I'm sure Mr. Freeman will be happy to
Okay.
reach out with you, and he will probably reach out to our chief of police.
All right. That's all.
come up
They
with a
just.
solution.
I love every time they come over, but it's usually for a medical emergency. I just love that they're there because that they get seen. That gets seen. That's imprinted in the mentality of a ne'er-do-well. Okay. No, I'll give you a phone number. New Mexican numbers. They always told me that at school. They also told me I had potential, but I daydreamed too much.
Thank you. All right, we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ball, thank you for bringing that to our
Oh, yeah,
attention.
absolutely.
Thank you for
Thank
bringing
you
that
very
to our
much, sir.
attention, and we'll try to help you out. So we're still in citizens' time, and we have one more person, Ms. Maylene Watson, that would like to speak. Would you please come up and say your name and your address for the minutes, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Maylene Watson, and thank you for letting me address you all tonight. I am commander of American Legion Post 9 here in town. I'm also the commander of the District 7 for the Western Region for the State Department of Virginia and chair of the Wall of Honor Committee. And I'm also an Army veteran. And I put several thoughts on paper, and in talking with some of my members, I'd like to address Veterans Day from a veteran's perspective. And I put it on paper so I wouldn't forget anything. And I would like to read that to
Ms.
you.
Maylin, can I ask a question? Do you mind to pull the mic down to
Oh,
me, please? I'm
sorry.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, yes.
Sorry.
No, ma'am, you're fine.
Okay. Well, anyways, from a veteran and other veterans, the perspective about Veterans Day. And the question comes up is why celebrate Veterans Day and or Memorial Day? And the simple answer is because there's a long history of the holiday, the specific importance, but extremely significant to those that have served their country. And that brought me here tonight. We, the American Legion, we were extremely excited. I can't tell you how excited. On the 20th of September at a Wall of Honor Committee meeting, we sat down and were discussing Veterans Day, the activities that might be going on. And as a post, like I said, we were very excited, and we were making plans to enter a float in the parade and participate in the activities at Withers Park with our 21 gun salute and taps, which have historically been done by us at the meeting center on Memorial Day and Veterans Day. So sadly for us, it didn't happen. And no problem, some said, just come to Spiller Elementary. But looking at the agenda, we found that we were not included. Why were we not included? That's the question. Comments to me were, well, it's a Spiller school event, and we can't control that. More questions and concerns, seriously, in speaking to you, came to me. I had questions, and I was also told that there was no rain date, which we had specifically discussed in our Wall of Honor meeting on the 20th of September. And in questioning why no rain date, because it was in my own personal minutes, I was told that we never do rain dates for parades in Wytheville because it would cause a logistical nightmare. Wytheville isn't that big, but I'm trying to understand. Okay, so I was really almost convinced by several people that I was crazy. Well, I might be, but that all of this never happened. That the minutes that I wrote down and specifically notated rain date and everything that we were going to be participating in didn't happen. And I'm thinking, whoa, okay. There, my confusion. Okay, so after the meeting, I shared the proposed events with my members. We talked about what we could do. First of all, we were going to do the rifle volleys and the taps, but did we want to enter a float in the parade, be part of this parade? because we were asked if we wanted to be. So we've been planning. All right. So somewhere between 9:20 and in my letter here of my notes, I wrote down who knows when, there must have been discussions, changes, etc., to the Wall of Honor Committee's minutes and discussion about the Veterans Day activities. I really am at a loss of how this all fell down. I have asked, I have gotten no answers. But my question to you now is, so where do we go from here? So now what? Do we simply forget to celebrate such an important day? Do we ignore all those names on the walls in Withers Park or the veterans that still live in this community? And I want you to please understand that we as veterans in no way are saying that the children, the teachers, nor the faculty, anyone that's involved in Spiller School, they're important. We're not saying they're not important. And I want to be on record for saying that. But, and aside from that, we're very proud of them. And we're proud that the school is educating young people on the importance of what it is to be a veteran and what Veterans Day is all about. But what I also want to say is that from my understanding and others of the Spiller School activity, it's been for the families of those students. And there's enough of them that would fill that gymnasium anyways. How many students at Spiller? Hundreds. Okay, so aside from that, what we're saying and feeling is that this community can and should do better by its veterans. And that the American Legion is here to help, as always, in any way that we can. We show up. We are involved in this community through countless volunteer hours just across the board on many fronts. And we don't want any veteran to feel insignificant, much like those veterans who came home from the Vietnam War. Some of you might maybe not remember or not familiar with the history of the Vietnam War, but veterans were booed. They were excluded. It was like you went to war, you shouldn't have, whatever. But the thing is, what you also may not know is most of my members of American Legion Post 9 are Vietnam War veterans. And it's specifically important to them to be recognized. And so at a minimum, we'd like to have flags flying for every veteran in this town, living or deceased, if possible, similar to the town of Marion and other communities surrounding us. Our thoughts, and perhaps thoughts that others have already shared, would be that the families of veterans sponsor flags so that we can fly them on these two really specific dates. If there's other things that come to mind, we certainly would share those. But there are other things that happen in this community. For instance, the Run for the Wall, the motorcycle group, we go all out for them. Not that we shouldn't, but there are comments that have been made. And as commander, I am supposed to be the leader. I have to stand up and talk about how they feel. And their feeling is, please show us the love. As silly as maybe some people think that sounds, it's there, it's alive, they're alive, and they don't want to be minimized. So in closing, I'd just like to share a saying about Veterans Day, and it is, brave men rejoice in adversity, just as brave soldiers triumph in war. And that's extremely meaningful to a veteran. Anyways, thank you for listening. For God and country, we're here to help. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And as a wife of a veteran, you know, I understand what veterans is all about, and everybody up here does. We did have a lovely event at the school that morning, and there was a lot of veterans there, so it was very nice.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
I would I did make mention previously about getting flags with our veterans on them and putting them downtown. When it was brought up about ordering banners to go downtown, I asked if we could come up with a way to extend it to families to purchase banners for their families. And I don't know what happened. I didn't hear anything back. And then I'll take responsibility for not following up. So I'll take that one. But
Can I
we
comment on that
need
real
to
quick?
work on that.
So what I would like to do with that one, I actually had a conversation with Mr. Wolford about that specific idea today. And he took that and has some ideas about how to do that.
Okay.
And so I'd like to, if the council's okay with that, work with Ms. Johnson and Mr. Wolford, to explore that a little bit more, look at the logistics of it, and see if that's something we can come up with over the next few months. But I'd like to invite you to work with Todd and I keep calling him Todd. I can't help that. Mr. Wolford and I to maybe flesh that idea out a little bit.
I would love to, and I would like to also propose that if there's some way that we could offer them as a town, to include it in our budget, to offer them as a discount for those families. We did raise taxes, so we should have money to provide some kind of discount for those families to purchase those banners.
I think you're a committee that you're just forming, can go through that and then bring it back to us, and we can.
Understood.
Yeah.
Princeton, West Virginia, recently. They can contact me. I can
Thank you.
And actually, to be honest with you, Mr. Freeman, I did reach out to Mr. Wolford a while back. It's been a while back. And even sent him some screenshots of a place I saw. But because I was actually going to check with one of those places too. They were closed Friday.
Yeah, and he told me he thought he had it pretty well worked out. So I think we just need to get together and look at the logistics of it.
I think the pictures I sent him a long time ago, I said I think they were just black and white. They weren't color, so maybe a little bit cheaper. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commander Watson, for coming out.
That's all that is signed up. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak at citizens' time? All right, and now we're going to go ahead with our agenda. And next on the agenda is a presentation by Ms. Thalia Rodriguez regarding the farmers market. If you'll come on up and state your name and your address, please. And
my name is Talia Rodriguez. The address is 210 West Spring Street here in Wytheville, Virginia. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Town Council. It's my pleasure to be here in front of you all again today. Thank you for having me. I'm here to present an idea on behalf of the Wytheville Farmers Market for a potential renovation of our small kitchen space into a commercial teaching kitchen and a few other updates. So this idea of converting our kitchen into a commercial teaching kitchen has been in the works for several years now. It really hasn't been able to break ground due to changes in management over the years. And I do believe that the Town Council has once approved this project, but we do recognize that it has changed since then. So we'd really like to have your all's blessing on this. Actually, one of our previous managers had asked Virginia Tech to do a feasibility study for this project, and it did come back with the help of the With Plan Foundation, and it did come back to say that this project could be very beneficial to the community. So we envision this space to be like a food entrepreneur hub for people who are caterers or anyone who needs access to a certified kitchen who does not have that. We also would like to hold some workshops there with the farmers market, such as some cooking demonstrations or teaching a group how to preserve some food. And also we'd like to connect with schools in the community, maybe bring in some students and do some of their own demonstrations. We have support from the community already, from culinary teachers such as Mary Ellen Watson and Katrina Knapp. We also have support from Brock Hughes Medical Center. We actually have a program with them already called the Pharmacy Program, where 6 months out of the year they come and they do some workshops on health of various different topics. And they also would love to do some type of cooking demonstrations if this kitchen were to happen. So here is a little rendering picture of a concept that one of our previous vendors did for us. It includes pretty much everything needed in a commercial kitchen to be approved, such as oven, stove, water cooler, everything, including like pans, everything that just needed for someone to be able to use. Next slide, please. So here I've attached some pictures of what the farmers market currently looks like if you haven't been able to visit us yet. On the left is our kitchen space. It's very small, low ceilings. So a previous manager actually had gotten some quotes from 3 different construction contractors to see how much that would cost. And they did recommend raising the roof a little bit and using outdoors connecting those stove vents to an outdoor section to be able to get some good ventilation in there. And there may be a need to install AC in there, but from the notes the previous manager left to me, I believe he just decided to buy an AC, but I can follow up with that if you all do approve, and once we start talking to contractors to see what needs to be done about that. And unfortunately, we weren't able to find an architect to be able to do a visual for you all to give you more of what our vision is for this kitchen. But we do, since we are going to be needing to raise the roof of that kitchen space, we'd really like to also have a little bit of a loft so we can create that into our office space, since if this is going to be fully converted into a kitchen, our assistant and I are not going to have a place to work. So we'd like to also add that addition in. Next slide, please. And so here is a breakdown of the 3 different proposals that he got. That was back in 2020. So with inflation and everything, I kind of calculated that to be maybe around $90,000, maybe even $100,000, depending on if we can get the loft. And we also did some calculations on how much it would cost for all the kitchen equipment, maybe around $30,000. It might be more or less, just really kind of depends. We don't expect the town to pay for any of this, where my assistant and I will be working on getting grants to be able to cover all these costs, and hopefully maybe talk to the With Plan Foundation and let them know what our project needs are and see if they can help us with some of that funding. Next, please. So we did, I don't know if you all are aware, but Grayson County and Blacksburg actually already has a kitchen like this. So we took an example of how they set up their fees. We also kind of, since the chamber is, with Bland, we thought maybe we could extend this to with Bland counties as well, Bland counties as well. We have both for commercial and non-commercial, and what that means, commercial is for profit, and non-commercial would be for nonprofits and educational uses. I'm not sure if this is going to be the exact fees that we're going to be setting, but this is just an example what Grayson County does themselves. And something else that the board wanted me to come to you all about is renewing our lease that is going to be expiring at the end of this year. They have asked me to see if you all would be able to meet with them. I'm not sure if that's the town manager or you all, about making a few changes to that contract. And I have a few notes here about why the farmers market is really important. It's a place of entrepreneurship, a place of education. We have the Master Gardeners come and do educational programs. We have programs like Healthy Kids Bucks to help teach kids how to eat better. And we also give them a little bit of little monies to be able to learn how to use that throughout the market. We offer lots of kids activities and nutritional education programs. As I mentioned before, the pharmacy program with Brock Hughes is really successful this year. And we also have another program that we'd like to start ramping up called Growing with Youth. And that program is pretty much gathering students and teaching them how to grow and possibly come to the farmers market and sell just kind of an experience for them. And in the future, we're hoping to hold workshops to educate farmers and other people in the community related to agriculture. Next slide, please. And something else that I wanted to discuss with you all is AC, in case the kitchen is approved, just so you all aware that that might need to be installed if a mini AC unit is not enough for the kitchen. Something else that was brought to our attention is the fire department came through just to inspect the place, and they do recommend putting in a fire alarm system since we don't have that yet, and maybe a Knox box in case something happens and someone with a key isn't around to let them in, so they don't have to destroy the doors or anything like that. And we were wondering if you all were open to us maybe painting on the inside, or maybe working with some graphic departments at Radford or Virginia Tech to come in and paint a really nice mural. Right now it's just all white, and we really would love to see some color in that space just to spruce it up and make it a little bit more inviting. And another thing that came up this summer for our produce vendors was, so here's a picture of what that picnic area looks like in case you weren't aware. We have a lot of produce vendors set out there, and the sun in the summer just hits directly in that space, and with their produce there, it can really heat them up and can either spoil them or just not make them viable anymore. So they have asked us to ask you all if it's okay if we install some shade, kind of like curtains, to be able to keep that sun from coming in and ruining their produce. I believe that's all. Next slide. Thank you so much for letting me be here with you all. If you all have any questions.
Elaine, would you mind bringing up this list, or I can probably rattle it off here. Certainly, just let's you and I connect and pick some dates to get together with your board.
Okay.
To talk about renewing these. Knox box, Chief Slump sent me an email about that last week. I think that's in process.
Okay.
For all you, I don't know if you all know what a Knox box is, but it's basically a miniature safe, for lack of a better term, that is attached to the outside of the building with a set of keys to the door. And if the fire department is called there and needs to get inside the building, that keeps them from having to tear the door to get inside. So we're working on getting a Knox box. I would love to see a mural in there. It is exactly as Talia described it. It is white everywhere, and I hope you all would support that. And I think shades are a great idea too. I think we can. I'd like to see how you all plan to put them up and that sort of thing. But I think
Those two items that we could talk and give her a yay or a nay tonight for them to get started with the mural looking in the shades, or is that something you want them to talk more about? I'm talking to council.
I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I say I'm talking to council.
With the shades, would that be something that would be like a grant, or do we pay for those, or how does that work?
We're willing to pay for those. We recognize that's something that we want personally, so we're willing to pay for those. We're also having the idea of not just having black ones, but once they come down, it has, we're open, or just something nice, vegetables or something like that, to make the building a little bit more attractive too.
And you won't need those until next spring anyway.
That is correct.
So basically, you would like an answer on the mural and also the shades.
Correct,
Right, okay.
Councilwoman. Mm-hmm.
And so, can I ask a quick question about the shades? Are we shading? We're out shading the outdoor pavilion space, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. I took this picture kind of strategically. If you can see, maybe on this side, just maybe, if I remember correctly, when I was observing this summer, we might just need between 3 and 4 of them.
I mean, the bottom, this, I'll say the left side of the picture is basically south facing.
Yes.
And so you're going to get that one sign on the south, and then on the east side is the front of your building there. So you'd be sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Freeman, is there any type of special codes for blinds? I know that sort of going to sound stupid, but
I really don't think so, but I'd be happy to check with Mr. Spraker on that. I think that the key for us is we just want to see how you intend to mount them, and maybe just work with you all on making sure that we're mounting them correctly, make sure they're safe. I'm assuming these would be retractable.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So, we've had some of the same issues that were described by the gentleman earlier with Hedgefield, with people kind of being in this space maybe at times they shouldn't be. So I think it'd be better to keep that open when the market's not operating. But I don't personally see any, from the management perspective, I don't see any issues with any of these.
I don't either. The only thing is if you do have someone cooking out there, just like a flame, resistant or something
Sure.
up to code or whatever, but I don't see a problem with the mural or the shades as long as I don't. It sounds like a great idea.
Thank you.
So you will get together.
Yeah, it
One,
sounds
talk
like we need
about
some
their
meetings to
lease,
talk about the
and
lease.
talk about everything else and then whatnot, and then maybe share that with council,
Absolutely.
and then we can go forward. Does that make sense?
But Mayor Taylor, the mural and the shades is a go. Is that correct?
It's a go. They won't need the shades until spring anyway, so they'll find out what they can do with, as far as code and all that kind of stuff, and share it with Brian, and if there's an issue, he can bring it to us.
Of course, if you order them now, you'll probably get them by spring.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's true. Good luck.
Great presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Good job.
All right, next on the agenda is a presentation by Fire Chief Chris Slim on the proposed amendments to the fire prevention and protection section of the town code. Chief.
Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all letting me come before you tonight. We have, before you in your package, you'll see an ordinance revisions, which we're not asking you to act on tonight by any means. Going to spend just a few minutes with you, giving you kind of the 30,000 foot view of why we need to change and update some things. I've been working on this since about, I guess, June. So we've met on several occasions with staff and the town attorney as well to review this. And what I want to do tonight is just give you some background and just like I say, an overview of where we're going and why we need to go the direction we do. And then give you some time to look at it. And if you want to meet, I can meet with you one-on-one. If you want to really get down in the weeds of some of this, I'll be glad to do that with you. I'm sure you'll have a few questions in it. But just tonight, like I say, just a brief overview. Let's see. Well, which way? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. All right. So currently, if you were to go into the town code and ordinances and look for anything that are related to fire and rescue services, you'd find they're in about 3 different places in 3 different chapters. First one, obviously, there's one just specific on fire prevention and fire protection. And then you'd find some of the codes that related to like open burning and so forth. You'd find those under a miscellaneous section. And then there's a couple of sections that are also under the police department that deal with fire services. If you recall, years ago, some of the fire services were joined with the police department, and I believe the staff was actually under the police department. And, we've had some changes since then. So next slide, please. Why do we need to change? Well, over the past 5 years, you've had some significant changes in your fire and EMS and rescue services. That's one reason. There's, like I say, several sections and definition in the present code they're outdated, and some of them conflict with state code. So we need to update those. We also want to bring fire codes into kind of get them into one chapter to make it a little easier for the average citizen to go find and not have to go, if I have to look for them, I'm sure the average citizen really has to look for them. So we just want to clean that up and make some of the sections are kind of difficult to understand right now. If you were to go in and look at the sections on open burning, you'd find those under air pollution, and they're rather difficult to understand. So we want to clean that up and make that a little easier in today's world, that make it a whole lot easier for anybody that looks at that. We also lack a few areas in the code that we need to have in today's environment. I'll touch on that just a little bit. And then we also wordsmith a few places that just need some wordsmithing. And then lastly, there's still a couple sections in there that deal when, you used to have a volunteer fire department, which we don't anymore. And we can take some of that out. And if we ever were to have volunteers again, we really wouldn't even need to put those back in today's environment. We could make do with what we had. So just some brief overview here. Definitions you'll see when you go through, and if you go through your document, you'll see a lot of red. The red is what we're proposing as changes. But the several of the definitions are, again, slightly dated, and they also conflict with state code. And there's also been a lot of changes in some of those definitions in the last few years, either whether it be state code or the statewide fire prevention code, which we do enforce. And again, some are missing, and we just need to add some definition and clarity. A couple of examples of that, you'll see the fire code official. If you read it today, in today's ordinance, it says a fire code official means the fire marshal. Well, that definition has changed over time, and now it means the officer or other designated authority charged with administration and enforcement of the fire prevention code. So that's one we need to update to bring into line with the state fire prevention code. You'll also see a definition in today's ordinance on standard operating procedures. Well, we not only have state SOPs, we also now have standard operating guidelines, which are SOGs. So we need to add some of the terminology for that. One of the things, and you'll see several examples in there of some things I've added as far as definitions. One of them is the public safety answering point, the PSAP. Years ago, when this was written, we didn't have those. Now there's a definition used to call dispatch, but technically it's called a public safety answering point, and we need that for part of our code sections. Fire prevention, the section on fire prevention, I've done several updates in there. Most of these are going to be driven because of statewide fire prevention code changes in terminology. One of the things, we have a thing called the Bureau of Fire Prevention. We really don't have a bureau. We kind of have the Office of the Fire Marshal. That's one of the updates. Using the term fire official to make it consistent with today's codes. That's what you'll see referring to through several places in the state code. And then also our appeals process. There is an appeals process, just like in building codes, there's one for fire codes. But what we had is in there was very wordy, and I've changed that and simplified that. We just need to follow what state code says and make it very simple. Also under fireworks, one of the places where we have a huge conflict on the definitions is in the fireworks section. Our current definition actually allows for fireworks that are illegal under state code, so we need to update that definitions. There's been, I guess over the past probably 5 years, there's been several changes in state code as far as fireworks and what's legal, not legal, and how they define those. So I've updated that to include those terminologies to make us comply with where we could come in compliance. Also updating how the language is for the permits for the sale and display of fireworks, and then setting up fee schedules for any permits, which we really didn't have that. And that would be something that would, we would add to a master fee schedule that you all adopt every year for any of those type fees. Under the fire marshal, one of the updates is how the fire marshal is actually appointed and how their powers, how they proceed or get their power, and as well as their oath of office. And then several of these are driven by changes in state code as far as fire marshals go. Toward the end, you'll see some new chapters or some new terminology and items. One of those, and most of this is also, again, to allow us as an example, we want to be able to recoup our costs when we have a hazardous materials incident. So I've added a section in that is consistent with what state code allows. It's pretty much just word for word what state code is. And then there's a section as far as billing for false alarms. That section exists right now, but it's over in the police side of things. And so we're going to take out the fire side and put it in the fire ordinances and leave the police to deal with that they need to when it comes to billing for any false alarms. And then toward the end, we have some changes that I'm suggesting on regulation of burning. Like I told you before, currently all our ordinances related or codes related to burning, open air burning is in the air pollution section. That's pretty much dated. I think that was probably taken or put into play at times when the Department of Environmental Quality didn't really handle some of that. And now they pretty much handle anything with open burning. And so of regulation of air pollution really should be left to the Department of Environmental Quality. Our code calls for the appointment of I think it's called an air quality officer or air pollution officer, which we really don't have anybody probably certified for that either. So we all think that should be stuck under and let DEQ handle that. It also confusing when you read it. I've read it several times. It talks about different colored smoke and what is legal and isn't legal. I've never seen that before, so that's something we probably need to update a little bit. And we can simplify that and bring it into what the state code and what the fire prevention code also allows. You know, one of the other things we don't have that's been come into play over the last week, and it's going to come into play this week, we don't have anywhere in the town code that allows us to restrict burning when we get into drought conditions, which we've been. You know, the county now has a burn ban going on. Several counties in southwest part of the state have burn bans going on right now because we're in a drought situation that's only going to get worse this week. The rain we got Friday wasn't enough, so we've not had any way to, you know, if we wanted to as a town, really restrict that for the safety of the town. I tell my guys every day when we come in,
we can do that.
We can't right now.
Okay.
That's what I'm adding in there. We need to do that. Yeah. So just to have that authority. Other jurisdictions I've worked in, I've had that authority, and I think I've done it twice or three times during my entire career where it got so bad. I said, we got to stop burning. So that's one of the things I'm proposing that we do add in there. So, you know, right now, I'll tell you, every morning when I come in, the first thing I look at is the forestry forecast. And, you know, we every morning before anything goes on, we talk about, here's our plan for the day if we get a forest fire, because we want to stay ahead of any of those. We don't want to be on the news, you know, growing from 50 acres to 100 acres to 1,000 acre kind of thing. So, you know, that's one of the things we're every day talking about. So we need to have that ability if we need to restrict burning on days like this. So that's kind of the 30,000 foot view for you. Like I said, I'd like for you to take it, look it over. I'm sure you'll have questions. I'll be glad to talk with you one-on-one, spend as much time as you want with you and go through it and, you know, help you wherever I can to answer your questions.
Does anybody have any questions now?
Well, I certainly thank you for going through and taking the time and
Thank you.
bringing us up to speed for the, how long ago did you say?
I started in, I think, June.
June.
That was one of the first things I started looking at when I got here was, hey.
And some of these have been in effect for what, the past 4 or 5 years?
Oh, they've been longer than that. Some of them go way back, I think.
Yeah, thank you for bringing us up to speed.
Just texting. I appreciate the town attorney. He's worked with me on this. Ms. Holton has a whole lot, and so has Mr. Freeman. So we've met several times and discussed it at length.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate you.
All right.
Well, I do have a couple questions or clarifications, whether or not they're staying, they're going, or whatever, but more of an education. So who is our fire marshal?
Technically, right now, it would be me. And that keeps it there. It just defines it better. And then we have like an assistant fire marshal. We have a couple of assistant fire marshals, but one of the things we need to go back in there and do is in this thing is really create where you take an oath of office, because you are enforcing codes, and we've not been doing that, and that needs to, you know, I've put that in there where we do that.
Okay. Are we going to continue to, is your department going to continue to be able to send out warrants and things of that nature?
Serve warrants. If we needed to right now, we can't. That would be up to the PD. The way, and it's kind of funny. I was in the capacity I served in another jurisdiction when I was the fire marshal. I went through a police academy. I had full police powers. I could serve my own warrants. I could do all that stuff. I'd go get a search warrant. I could do whatever I needed to. The Virginia is unique. It allows the fire marshal to have certain powers if they've gone through certain training. So today, as an example, if our fire marshals don't have any kind of police powers. However, if they went and took the training, they would automatically have that if we so warrant for them to have that. And that's when you would be able to do your warrants and so forth. I can go get a warrant. If we're investigating something and I need to charge somebody with something, I can go to the magistrate, just like any citizen, get a warrant, and it would be served by a deputy or a police officer. Once you have police powers, like in the past, I just either wrote the summons or went and got my own warrants, made my own arrest, did my own surveillance, did all that stuff. So it varies as to how you're trained. But right now we don't have anybody on staff that's in that role that has the police powers.
But you want to keep that in here just because that in the future, that may be something that we'll have.
Yeah, keep that in there. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and along with that same dialogue would be, carrying a firearm.
If we certified or sent somebody to school for that, yes, there's two ways you can derive those powers. You can go through a police academy at the Fire Marshal's Academy puts on, which is what I did, or you can go to any regional police academy, which where I worked before, half my staff had done that, and half of us went through the Fire Marshal's Academy. So, but you can't do that unless you've been through all that. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Glad to answer that.
One concern I have, and I'll ask you, Mr. Castle, if we make a motion to give Chief Slink the power to enforce a burn ban?
Yeah, in the proposed document, yes. As of today, I don't know where you could do that.
You can't do it.
I don't know of a state code provision off the top of my head that authorizes it without a corresponding words to you, Chief.
Yeah. But I will research something to make sure I'm right about that. I've got.
Their answer is it's either going to be in the state code or it's going to have to be an ordinance. So you're not going to be able to do it tonight.
Okay.
He may already have the authority, which we haven't looked at yet. We'll have to see if that exists somewhere in state code or the fire prevention code. I'm not sure.
I have a manual that I've kept over the years that each of the laws that relate to fire, and I have case law that goes with each of them to see what's been tried and true. Let me look at that. I'm looked at.
He and I can take
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? You said Wythe County does have a burn ban, right?
They just put that in play last Friday.
Okay. If, for instance, since we are actually in Wythe County, would we not have to? I mean, could we not follow theirs until we get one?
Oh yes, and we're doing that now. Yeah, the town, any residents, but the situation may be that, and that's up to them to do. But we may say, hey, we're so densely populated, we just need to put this on now. Honestly, if I'd have had that authority last week, I'd have probably done it about last Wednesday when I started seeing them pop up everywhere else. And after I made my visit to the weather service last week on an unrelated thing, I would have probably put that into play.
Right now, we're covered.
We're covered for the time being. Yes,
right.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yes,
That's a
ma'am.
good thing, but
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is to consider the request of Wythe County Public Schools Foundation for Excellence to provide traffic control on Saturday, January 13th, 2024, to conduct a Sandman half marathon and the MLK 5K run.
Good evening. So we have 4 applications for you this evening for street closures and traffic control, and I'll try to go through them as quickly as I can. If you have any questions, by all means, let me know. Each of these applications will require a separate vote by the town council. So the first one is the MLK 5K and the Sandman Half Marathon proposed for January the 13th. And this did go to the Safety and Events Committee. They did make a recommendation for you to approve it. In your packets, you have the application and you have the map with the proposed routes for both of those events. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
I do on that one.
Sure.
I'm sorry. On this one, and I know sometimes some of them might not be an extreme. I know this one is. Not that I've ran it myself, but I helped a long time ago. Will there be somebody like with the rescue squad that is active with this group, especially because it is, I think, brutal at times?
Okay, that's a great question. We did not discuss that in the Safety and Events Committee, but I am happy to send that request to the fire and EMS to see if their individuals could be available.
Well, and I mean, and that's up to y'all. But that was just like I said. I did participate in this at one time. I know that's hard to believe, but it was the Bojangles when I worked with them. So I was helping with tea. Believe it or not. So I know up there it's extremely bad, especially when the weather's cold. So I just want to make sure.
And you're talking about the top of the mountain?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I will work with Chief Slimp on that, if you don't mind.
Just maybe some alcohol. I know they're on call 24/7, but
okay.
Thank you.
See what we can do. Thank you.
Questions? You want to go through, or do you want us to go ahead and
Probably make a motion and a vote for each. Yes.
So if there's no further questions, do I have a motion to accept this as presented?
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well, any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you. You may continue.
Okay, great. The second application that you have before you is for the Stuff Strut 5K and the Kids Fun Strut to be held on Thanksgiving Day, which is November the 23rd. And I'm also pleased to add to that, we did put together another Wytheville team that will be representing the town of Wytheville through some of our risk management funds. So we sponsored about 20 town employees to participate that morning. But today for your consideration is whether the council will give their blessing for this event for the street closure traffic control. In your packets, you have your information along with the proposed map for that traffic control. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, is there any concerns, questions, dialogue?
Great job on the town participants.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, hearing none, go ahead and vote, requires not a roll call vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, well, any opposed? All right, hearing none, that motion passes. Very much. You have another one?
Okay. The third application before you is the Kiwanis Club 5K, and this event is scheduled for May the 4th, 2024. Again, you have all the information in your packet for this event. They will be using the Chautauqua route, which they used last year, and it was a successful event. If you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, I'm not hearing any questions. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well, any opposed? And that motion passes unanimously as well. Elaine?
Okay, the last application before you is for the downtown Wytheville Christmas Parade. It is scheduled for Saturday, December the 2nd. I did want to point out, since your packets were mailed, Todd did an update of the times. So I'm just going to ask that everybody grab the sheet that was laid out in front of you, the one that was not in your packet. I'm just going to go over these times just so that everybody's clear about when things are starting. Essentially, the Safety and Events Committee met, and at that meeting, Todd mentioned that he did change the times because we wanted to make sure that there was enough time for the parade lineup and people to get from the Christmas tree lighting to the parade and that sort of details. So the correct time is the tree lighting will start at 5:30 p.m. Just for those of you who are interested in attending the tree lighting, that will be down here at Withers Park. And downtown Wytheville is doing that in coordination with multiple partners, including our Parks and Recreation Department. The parade staging will start at 4:30 p.m. And Mayor Taylor, they will arrange to get you very quickly from the tree lighting up to the beginning of the parade. The parade lineup will start at 5:30, and Todd did a great job with these maps showing essentially where that will occur. The parade itself will start at 6 p.m., and we're pleased to report that our Human Resources Department applied for a VERSA grant and was successful, and we received about $4,000 worth of additional pedestrian barricades that will be used to help protect the public from the parade route. So that those will be added this year to what you saw last year, and we're going to keep adding those as funding allows. So that was a pleasant discovery, and we're very proud of our HR department for applying for that grant on behalf of the Safety and Events Committee and Public Works. So in a nutshell, you have the updated times, and if you have any other questions, just let me know.
Where are you going to be taking the mayor to and from?
I was just going to say, that any council members so I'll be at the park at night with the kids, and they switch the switch and turn on the lights.
Okay.
So, and any other council people are there, they'll get us up to the other end of town to start the parade.
Okay.
Yes.
I wanted to be clear.
Right.
But historically, there's usually not, maybe one other one there. It varies too. So they won't get any of us up to, so you don't have to run.
As long as you arrive safely. I just,
Like the tree lights.
the tree lighting, I just needed to understand it. I didn't know where they were whisking you off to.
Or Express.
Right.
They're going to get us up there too, Candace. Don't you worry.
That's right. So
I'll be in the truck with Grinch, so it's all right.
if anybody has any questions, they can contact Todd as well, who will be intimately involved in getting the mayor and any council person from the tree lighting up to the parade staging ground. So we look forward to that parade. Right. Does anybody have any more questions?
All right, no more questions?
I do have a council question. So I know that the Safety and Events Committee, you all make the recommendation,
Yes, ma'am.
but how, I guess I need to know, when I get my mailer with my water bill, these events are announced, but council hasn't approved it. So why is that? Like, I got my water bill today, and the parade announcement is already in there. And a few events back, we've had announcements, I think Appalachia and another one, not exactly sure, that was in between the two of those. Those events are announced, but we haven't approved the permits. So why is that? Can somebody answer that question?
We probably just need to watch that a little closer.
I mean, I don't do the water bill, so I'm like, I get one, but I don't.
You don't look at it?
Well, I didn't say.
Don't look at you.
She doesn't marry Laura. You just don't look at it. I just.
But yeah, and I don't think every item needs council, but there's certainly a lot of it like this that needs council's blessings or something. So.
I just was curious to how
Yeah, we
it
didn't
works.
just
I mean,
pay closer attention to that and
Yeah.
make sure, because if something changed in here last minute and it went out.
Well, and some of these for recently, would have been, 2 weeks ago, a week ago when we canceled our meeting.
That.
But it's happening before that, is what she's saying.
I got you.
But
It has happened frequently because I know I've mentioned that before, and
I just happened to look at my water bill today, and I noticed.
Right.
Then I looked at it previously, and before we approve them, they're already announced. So that's something that we might want to take a look at in the event that something changes, and then we haven't already publicized it. We don't want to
Agree.
mislead anybody.
Correct.
points, any other questions, concerns? All right, so we need a motion.
Okay.
A motion, do we have a second?
second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? I hear none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye as well. Any opposed? That motion passes. Next on the agenda is to consider the establishment of a personal property tax reimbursement rate. And I do believe Treasurer Michael Stevens is here to help us with that. So if you'll please come up to the podium, sir.
Michael Stevens, 280 Tremont Drive, Wytheville, Virginia. With the Personal Property Tax Relief Act of 1998, the Commonwealth of Virginia gives the town of Wytheville a set amount each year, $61,075, to distribute towards non-business vehicles. Each year, we have to allocate these funds based on the criteria of that Personal Property Tax Relief Act. And this year's taxpayers' reimbursement rate is 36.48%. And we can't give you that percentage early. We have to wait till we get the tax book, run a computation of the criteria, which vehicles qualify and all that so we cannot set it till basically it's almost after the fact because we had a December 5th deadline. But
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Stevens?
And don't point at me just because I worked there a long time. No. I think it's
Holly could have explained it. I mean, she was here.
Yeah, back up. Let me do it. Hold the mic.
So real quick, Mike,
Literally.
just-
Sorry, that was
Just for informational purposes, the state essentially is paying that for the 36.48%. You just have to credit certain accounts based on the criteria.
Yeah. They give us $61,000, and then we have to, and then that's what when you see on your tax bill, you'll see a state credit, and that's the 36.48% that the state is paying for towards your personal property tax. But yes,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
You do an amazing job. You
Well,
and your staff.
I'll
Thank
do
you.
the best I can.
All right, so I will need a motion, please.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
second.
Motion second. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, this will be a roll call vote, please, and we'll start with Councilman Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Gilman, aye.
The ayes have it. Next on the agenda is to consider an appointment to the Joint Industrial Development Authority of Wythe County, the JIDA, to fill the expired term of Mr. David House. Term expired November 10th, 2023. I will need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve Mr. Mark Wytheville.
Okay, so we have a motion for Mr. Bloomfield to take that position. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and
Before we vote on this, I got a question. There were 2 applications, were there not? So can we back up here? I would like to meet Ms. Parks before we make a decision. I think everybody knows Mr. Bloomfield, but I would like to meet Ms. Parks before we go to making motions. I'd like to have a meet and greet.
I don't see any reason why that can't happen.
I withdraw my motion.
All right, so we'll ask management to set that up for us. Is that the only one you?
Everybody knows, I think, Mr. Bloomfield. But I would like to meet Ms. Parks. You don't know?
But I don't really, I think Ms. Parks has been here one time before, possibly, I'm not for sure. Maybe, I'm not for sure.
For different things.
But I wouldn't know if I saw her.
All right, so. Mr. Freeman, can you get that set up for us?
Sir.
All right, next on the agenda is to consider an appointment to the Wytheville Building Code Appeals Board to fill the expired term of Mr. William Turner. The third term expired July 26, 2023. And in your packet, I think you had a couple applications. So do I have a motion, or do we want to do the same thing? I don't, if anybody knows these candidates, so speak up.
If you would like to do a meet and greet, we can. If not, I would like to make a motion for Mr. George Landon Lee Sayers.
Well, I don't know either one of these people, so does everybody know them but me? If that's so, that's okay.
I know Lamb.
You know, which one?
Lamb.
So it is a little confusing because they have the same last
Same
name,
last name,
but
yeah.
they're not relatives.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a meet and greet, Mayor Taylor, since you don't know him. I don't know the other gentleman, so that would be good, a meet and greet, if that's okay with you all.
Yeah.
You know Vice Mayor?
I know Landon, but I don't think I know.
I do know Landon as well, so.
If you want to make it fair, we can do a meet and greet. We would like for you to know everybody too.
Thank you.
We can set that up.
Appreciate that. Well, I guess we probably, if some of these are expiring, maybe you probably need to do that sooner than later, maybe bring it back on our next council meeting. if that works out in the holiday period.
And we'll try to get them on the second.
Next on the agenda is, thank you, appreciate that. Next on the agenda is to consider dispensing with the December 25th, 2023 town council meeting due to Christmas holidays. Staff want to say anything about this, or would you want us to just go ahead and?
Yeah, very quickly. Customarily, the council has always dispensed with the second meeting in December, just due to the nature of it being year end, the Christmas holiday. But this time, your council meeting does in fact fall on Christmas Day, so I think it's obviously critical that we take some kind of action for that date, as that's not a business date for us, and I don't know that our participation would be very low, I think, if we had that meeting date. So I would think it's pretty self-explanatory beyond that.
So, anybody?
No, my feelings are a little hurt because I am known as a Grinch. I think everybody needs to work that day. So I want to spend Christmas with y'all.
I would like to make a motion to dispense with the December 25th meeting.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, any further dialogue? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye as well. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Shoot, I was looking forward to having lunch with Holly.
I know. Hey, we still can. Trust me, I don't have plans. I don't have any plans.
So the next item on the agenda is proposal for Christmas Eve, December 22nd. Vice Mayor, do you want to go ahead and repeat what you're?
Sure. Well, with the holidays fast approaching and Christmas falls on Monday, I suggest that we grant all town employees a whole day off on Friday, December 22nd.
And well, I'll wait until discussion. Sorry.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would like to make that motion. I was going to make that request during council member time, but thank you, Councilwoman Pattison. But I would like to make that motion. They are well deserving of it. And they
So
also.
I think you just made a motion, right?
Did you?
just made
I'll
so you
second
seconded
it.
Yep.
Second.
There you go. So we have a motion second. Any discussion? And Mr. Freeman, you said you wanted to.
I just wanted to just quickly clarify and also acknowledge that there are many of our employees who will not be able to take that holiday off. We do have a number of employees that are in public safety and other areas, water and sewer treatment facilities, that unfortunately won't be able to take it off. But I just wanted to note to you that whenever this happens, regardless if it's the additional half a day or the full day, or it just happens to fall on a holiday, those employees do get added to their leave balances an additional 8 hours. But just take a second to recognize that some of them don't actually get to take that holiday off. That's all I want to mention.
We are grateful for those employees because we certainly would not be able to operate, and we would not be safe if those employees did not work on those days. I've been one of those employees in the past, so I know what that's like. So thank you to our public works people and our public safety, those that have to work on that day.
Any further discussion? None. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye as well. Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. And then the next one on the so change for half a day on
November 22nd.
November 22nd.
Yes, ma'am. I change it from a half a day to a whole day. My understanding, we've got busy travel season coming on from what I heard on TV. And I just wanted to try to give the employees, I know some can't take it. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Freeman, making that clear. I appreciate that. I'd like to give that as a little incentive to the town employees.
Right,
If we could do that,
we
please.
have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well, any opposed? That motion passes. Next on the agenda is new business, Town Manager Freeman.
I think only one item here, and I had briefed you all on this over the last few weeks, and I think it's apropos for this portion of the agenda because it's right in keeping with the holiday spirit. The town of Wytheville has historically provided employees with a holiday bonus during the last pay period before the Thanksgiving holiday. If a bonus is provided this year, it would need to occur on November 22nd to remain consistent with that time frame. It's not a critical time frame, but if we want to stay with how this has historically been provided, we would need to make a decision tonight on it. A little background, prior to 2020, this bonus was typically computed as 1% of the individual's employee salary, meaning each employee received different amounts, basically with higher paid employees receiving more than lower paid employees. Back in 2020, 2021, we proposed to change this to just compute 1% of payroll and then divide that equitably amongst all full-time employees. That just seemed like a more equitable way to distribute that and to distribute appreciation evenly. This basically came out to about $500 for each full-time employee. Prior to 2022 or 2021, excuse me, or 2022, we did not provide a bonus to part-time employees. That kind of, I think last year, and especially after coming, I'll say, out of COVID, and reductions in staff, reductions in part-time employees, the difficulties we were having with getting part-time employees. There was a push last year to provide some type of bonus to part-time employees, and last year the council initiated and it approved a $100 bonus for part-time employees with a caveat that they had worked 50 hours prior to October 31st. So it would be my proposal to the council that we that we do the same thing this year that we did last year with a $500 bonus to our full-time employees that were on staff prior to October 31st and a $100 bonus to our part-time employees that have worked at least 50 hours prior to October 31st. So if you're amenable to that, it would require a motion and a vote just to authorize us to process that through payroll.
So do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion in a second, sounds
I'll
like.
second it.
Motion in a second.
Late
Is there
girl.
any concern, any questions for Mr. Freeman or anybody have any concerns or questions?
It's welcome.
I do, Mayor Taylor. The one thing I do have, I did have on that list, I know we mentioned about the part-time, and thank you for remembering that. Is seasonal in there too, or is that like the 50 hours?
The only caveat is that from January 1 to October 31st, you provided 50 hours of service.
Now, can I ask this, and I hate to ask this, but can we make it where they get 500 total and 100 total?
Yes, and that is the way we would propose it, and so that basically means it's 541.42 is the gross amount, and then we would do the FICA and the other deductions, or I think it might just be FICA, for a net bonus check of 500, and we would the $100 is 108.28 prior to taking out the deduction.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens, as well.
Thank you.
All right, so we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, it's be a roll call vote, and we'll start with you, Mr. Gilman.
Gilman, aye.
Edmondson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Very much, and that is unanimous. Forward, next on the agenda is upcoming meetings, and we'll turn to Town Clerk Sherry Corbin for that, please.
Okay. On the upcoming meetings, the first one is the Wytheville Redevelopment and Housing Authority will meet on Wednesday, November the 15th at 12 p.m. at the Housing Authority office. The New River Regional Water Authority will meet on Thursday, November 16th at 10 a.m. at the Water Plant in Austinville. District 3 will meet on Thursday, November 16th at 6 p.m. at the Marion office. The Homestead Museum Advisory Board will meet on Friday, November 17th at 10 a.m. at the Jackson property. Downtown Wytheville Incorporated will meet on Monday, November 20th at 5:30 p.m. at the Downtown Wytheville office. The Town of Wytheville municipal offices will be closed and all services curtailed beginning Well, we'll be closed all day now on Wednesday, November 22nd through Friday, November 24th due to the Thanksgiving holiday. And the next regular scheduled meeting of the Town Council will be held on Monday, November 27th at 5 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next on the agenda is to continue review of the Housing Rehabilitation Zone Program, and we'll reach out to Assistant Manager Ray.
Okay, thank you. Do you all mind if I sit here so I can run the computer? Would that be okay with everybody?
I guess we'll let it ride.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so going back to October, if you all remember, I presented a PowerPoint presentation on what I thought was the need for a new program. So this is a brand new program, and essentially the intent of it is to incentivize the development of workforce housing in the town of Wytheville. So at that point in time, when I came before you, all you had was a PowerPoint, and what I sensed was that the council felt agreeable to me sort of taking that a bit further. And so what I did was I met with many of you one-on-one, and we talked about some of your concerns, questions, and I also circled back to Virginia Housing, who's been very instrumental with helping us develop this. And what we came up with was a first draft of a program. So each of you got this in your packet. Essentially how the program guideline would work would be, if this is something that you all feel like you want to move forward with, we would approve the program. Then we would have to do an ordinance. And in your packet, Sherry did a draft of what that ordinance language could look like. Very simple. We would also need to do a map that shows the properties in our new rehabilitation zone. And I do know that we have at least probably 2 properties that would be interested, and we can talk about that later if you all do decide to move forward with the program. But here on the Appendix B in your packets is an example of what that sample ordinance would look like. I realize that this is a lot. It's multiple pages, and so we do not have to make a decision on this tonight. Really, my intent for tonight is just to get your thoughts, any questions you might have. I'm also willing to meet with each of you one-on-one, again, if need be. And at least one council member said that she thought it might be helpful to do a work meeting. If you all feel like you need that, town management is happy to accommodate that request as well. In terms of timeline, the low-income housing tax credit program typically opens up in March. And one of the benefits of the program is that for those who are interested in low-income housing tax credits, and we know not all developers would be interested in that, but for those developers that are interested in that, if we were to do this program, it would be helpful to them to have this program in place January, February, just so that if they did want to apply for the low-income housing tax credit program, they would get 15 points on their application if they're in a rehabilitation zone. So,
And real quick, just a clarification on that, Elaine.
Sure.
As we understand it, they can qualify for those credits with or without this, but our assistance would be, and if they are within the zone, they would be scored a little more favorable.
Correct. Yep.
And I think you said that. I just was adding.
No, it's a good point. And it's it's interesting because in October, our head was there. We were working on this, and then we didn't meet earlier in November. So now we're trying to get back into this program. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I don't think there's much risk to the town. I mean, obviously, I would like to spend some time with Paul on Thursday to look at it from a legal perspective. In your packets at the end, you'll notice that I did include the enabling authority from the Code of Virginia in there. And, the good thing is that, unlike some sections, as you all know, with the Code of Virginia, they really get, in my opinion, a little bit more detailed about how you would administer a program. And really, this one-page guidance document, I don't think is going to be too difficult for us to navigate to stay in line with the intent of the Code of Virginia. The other cool thing is we have the support of Virginia Housing, and they're very excited that the town of Wytheville is pursuing this. And so I feel like they're going to be great partners for us as we continue to work on this together.
Does anybody have any questions?
I think she was very clear when I met with her on how it works, and
I have an education issue for myself. So on the very last, probably the last page, but under town council discretion, point A, waiver of tax liens to facilitate the sale of property. Just explain that to me.
Okay. Was that in the body or in one of the appendixes?
It's on page 107, appendix C. Did it bad?
It's on 107 here.
Page 107, appendix C. On council discretion right there.
Okay.
6A.
Right there.
All right, great.
So it's on A.
Okay.
Just kind of help me understand exactly what it is.
Okay, so the way I see this section working is this is going to be a request-specific section. So, for example, let's say, I'm just going to use an example. Let's say Bob the developer, and Brian, you might have to help me with this. Let's say Bob the developer gets an option to buy on a piece of property that he wants to do workforce housing on. And he becomes aware during his working with his real estate agent that that property has tax liens on it. Okay.
Town of Wytheville.
Correct.
Right. Town of Wytheville tax liens. So let's say that tax lien bill is $100,000. I'm just throwing that out there. That's lots of years of taxes, right?
That wouldn't happen
Okay.
if Mr. Stevens watching. I know better
Right. So developer Bob is like, wow, I really want to purchase this property. I really want to do this affordable housing, but that tax lien could potentially be the make or break for me. What staff would do would be to recommend that he comes to the town council specifically with that request. And if it's something that you all would be willing to work with him on, then we would work with him on becoming a member of the rehab zone, and you all would be able to waive that tax lien. So essentially what it does through the Code of Virginia is, the Code of Virginia gives you that enabling authority for anybody in the rehab zone for you to waive those tax liens at your discretion.
At your discretion. I want to make that point, and I've started using this phrase a lot. That an invitation is not an obligation. It doesn't obligate you to waive it, but if you would have the discretion to do so if a request was made. If someone gave you the invitation to waive their tax lien, you would not be obligated to do it, but this enables you to do it. Otherwise, there are very few instances in which a locality has the ability to waive taxes owed. Like very few. There's very specific instances for economic development and other things that would allow rebates and sometimes waivers, but there's very, very few in the Code of Virginia that allows you.
But that's a part of the incentives.
Correct. It would be at your discretion, the ability, it just grants you the authority to do it should you desire to.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions?
I personally talked to a developer about this initiative, and he was very much in favor, very much. So I think it's a win-win. We should initiate it.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
And one of the things I guess I'll just call to your attention, because I think this is an important point. When we were developing this and when I was meeting with you one-on-one, we were talking about the thresholds, right? Where we are incentivizing workforce housing, this is only going to benefit those who are committed to either selling a home for a price threshold that we consider workforce housing, or who are committed to building for rent apartment units at a threshold that we think is affordable housing. So you will notice item number 18 in your packet in the information. It references how we do the housing unit threshold and how we do the rental unit threshold. We are using a metric that we have discussed with Virginia Housing, and we've borrowed from their materials. And what you will notice is that item 18 references to a page in your appendix, which is, bear with me just 1 minute. It's the E. Okay. Appendix E is where I really go into detail about those thresholds. So again, those who would be participating in this would have to commit to keeping the rental housing units at or under these values for the rental of homes. And then for the sale of homes, we are using the Virginia Housing Sales Price Limit that they have, and they have the link online. It would be 80% of that value. So when you go to that document that Virginia Housing has, that threshold is $330,000 for a new home. Because we are in Wytheville County and we're not in Richmond or Fairfax, what I presented was that we do 80% of that value, which is $264,000. So that would be, again, the people who would participate would have to meet those thresholds. We wouldn't want them to sell a home for $300,000. They would have to sell a home for $264,000 or less.
And I know when you and I met, I know I wasn't comfortable with that one amount.
Right. So what I shared with you was through 330. And then after your comments and some of the other town council's comments, that's when I decided to make it an 80% value of that amount. And we do have we have a couple of developers who are in that. I did check with the building official. We do have a couple of new home developers who can build homes currently in that 250,000 range. So that was the other thing I wanted to ensure was that it was a doable thing, that they could build a home and sell it for $264,000 or less, and they can. There's a few that are doing that.
Can we circle back around to the taxes 1 second? Now, I know it says that like a waiver tax, at the council, whoever it would be at the time, could it just be like a percentage, a majority, or half, or it doesn't have to be totally waived, right? It could be whatever the town council comes up with.
It'll be at your discretion on case by case.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Castle.
Thank you for the time and work that you put in and for taking the time to give us an understanding of how it works. I was able to see some of the rehabilitation projects while we were at the VML on the city of Norfolk, and they were really nice.
Good.
Further questions?
She's had a busy night.
Yes.
So this does not require a vote.
Correct. And so, but what I would like to know from council is, would you like for us to package this up to bring back to you for a potential vote, maybe December, or would you rather have some more time and wait till January?
December?
Okay.
Could we do it tonight if council wanted to? No.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, next on the agenda is update regarding the town Wytheville economic development incentives. And again, Assistant Town Manager, Ms. Holton.
First of all, I just want to apologize for giving you a handout. If you wouldn't mind passing those. It's just a one-page sort of update on our economic development packet. And we have Mike Stevens in the room who's been sitting in on a couple of the meetings, and Brian and I have been talking about this. So I want everybody to feel like they can weigh in on this. Essentially, where we are is our Town of Wytheville Economic Development Incentive Packet was originally drafted in 2014. The second edition of that was updated in 2020. A few months ago, actually back in the summer, we noticed that there were some sections of that needed to be revised in 2024. So we convened a group in June, and we have several departments. We've got representatives from downtown Wytheville, the Chamber of Commerce, the Planning Department, the Tourism Department, the Treasurer's Department, and the Wyth Joint IDA. And we've just been discussing. We've been discussing what the current packet looks like. We've been discussing sort of the upper level thinking about what we think we may want to, what direction we may want to go in. And actually the group met this morning as well. And Kathy was invited by our group to join us. And so she sat in on a few of the meetings. We could potentially have one more town council person in the room. So if there's any one of you all that wants to come, you can. Or I can meet with you one-on-one if you want to share like your input about it. If there's anything about the current development incentive packet that you would like to comment on or anything like that. Everything's on the table at this point. No decisions have been made. We have invited a couple of guest speakers. We've had somebody from People Inc. come, and that was really exciting. They have a very progressive small business loan package. Today, we met with a group called SIRCAP, which has the ability to do trainings. And that's another exciting area that the group is sort of leaning towards, is to try to help some of our small businesses do more trainings. So essentially, the point of me bringing this to you tonight is just to sort of, as you know, Brian and I are committed to like reaching out to you when we're working on a project, to get your input, try to package items together for your review, and then give you plenty of time to review it and weigh in and discuss it and that sort of thing. So with that being said, probably a timeline for us would be maybe January or February to bring you a first draft and you all can take a look at it. Right now, and this is why I wanted to pass it out, this sheet, we do have a landing page for the current economic development incentive package. So if you want to, tonight, if you want to pull that up and take a look at it, or this weekend, if you want me to email you a copy, I'm happy to email all the members a copy. That might be good. I can also print you a copy and put it in the mail if you want to see what we have currently. Just to summarize, essentially the packet we have now, and Brian could probably speak a lot to it because he was instrumental in designing it, but the current packet right now essentially incentivizes new businesses in the areas of restaurants and lodging in downtown Wytheville is sort of the general focus that we have now. One of the things that we'll have to work with Paul on is there's only, similar to the program we just talked about, there's only certain enabling statutes that allow us to do incentives. So that's the one thing we're going to have to be careful about if we do rewrite this thing, is sort of making sure that we have an enabling statute to do whatever types of incentive that we want to do. But really, for the purpose of tonight, I just wanted to let you all know we were working on it and just to invite you to be a part of that process if you have any interest in that. So,
what days do you meet?
When do we meet?
Mm-hmm.
I will send that to you. We do have a meeting in December. It's on a Monday. I think it's our next town council meeting. Is it the 13th, Sherry, that we meet again? Or the 11th. I'm sorry. It's the 11th. December the 11th. It's at 10 in the morning. December the 11th, 10 in the morning. Yes. And it's in conference room A. Right. Do you think that you want to come, Candace?
I think I will check my calendar.
Okay.
They say anything about Chick-fil-A coming?
We're doing our best. So maybe we can put something together that we'll get a Chick-fil-A.
Everybody else is being serious too.
So you're going to meet December the 11th at what time?
At 10 a.m. in conference room A. And so, Candace, we'll go ahead and just say that hopefully you're coming. If any other council member has a desire to come, let me know, but we can only have 2. So,
But could we come just if it was not to a meeting, but we could come to listen, correct?
probably wouldn't be good if you were there,
Can't
but
have more than 2.
we can also take turns. So, maybe Kathy could sit out and one of the others can join in. So we'll work with you all to make sure that everybody who wants to be a part of it can be a part of it.
Okay, back to the Chick-fil-A. You said you were hopeful we were going to get Chick-fil-A. Is that what you said?
No, we're getting one. We're going to speak
I think everybody's.
We're going to
is.
speak it to
Matt,
existence.
wish- there you go.
We're getting a
Speak it
Chick-fil-A.
into
We might not know when. We're getting one.
My understanding, just real quick on that, because that one probably been a desire for 20 years. My understanding of their model is that they have already established where their expansions will be, and franchisees don't even get to pick, is my understanding of the way they do it. They know which markets they want to be in, And if they have decided Wytheville will get one in 24, we will. It really doesn't matter if they've got, you know what I'm saying? So,
I understand the process.
okay.
There's another way other
Okay,
than
well, I'd
that
love to
way.
hear about it,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So,
Okay.
but,
We're gonna get one, please. If you're out there, Mr.
I think honestly, I think that I got that from like 60 Minutes or something. I mean,
Yeah.
no joke.
But that's true because one
Yeah.
of the, somebody who owns it or has a couple of those units, he and I were talking,
Yeah,
West Virginia,
yeah.
and that's sort of their format.
one of their formats. For what?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
What he was saying, the
Right.
format, if
But I'd
they've
like to
already
hear about
got it
other
mapped
options,
out,
about other paths.
Mhm.
they're not gonna tell us if we're on the map, but they've already got it mapped out, we'll play it where they wanna go, is my understanding
That
as well.
doesn't stop people from trying.
Absolutely
Certainly.
not. We'll just get
So the
some-
next groundbreaking will be Chick-fil-A or.
We hope so. We hope so.
All right, next on the agenda is update regarding the Open Door Community Development Block Grant application. Who's holding again?
Okay, so again, I'll try to go quickly here. Essentially, for those of you who know about community development block grants, and in your packets, I provided you with just some very basic slides that I got from the CDBG website. Localities in Virginia can only pick one project a year. So I think typically the way this has happened is somebody who's interested in a project typically approaches the town, and then the town decides whether they want to work with that project to put together a CDBG application. Typically, the application period opens up in the summer. Is that correct, Brian? Usually around June, July.
I think a little earlier. I think in the past there was maybe even as early as March, but I don't know. It really sometimes depends on the governor a little bit.
Okay.
And,
So, and Brian's a great asset because Brian has done several of these in the town of Wytheville. I'm just going to be completely honest. I've never worked on one. So I'm excited to be a part of this and to work on one. The town, being town management, did receive a request from Open Door to sponsor them in a CDBG application for the summer round. So just so you all know, that's sort of the time sensitive nature of this. The first requirement in that is that we have one just initial, very broad public input meeting. It's really just to let the community know that, number one, what a CDBG grant is. So we're going to have somebody there from the Mount Rogers PDC to help us communicate that. And then also to let the public know that if they have a project that they want to work with the town on, that they're welcome to come and share that as well. So I think that's sort of the intent of that first public input meeting. It's just we'll advertise it in the paper, and we'll see who comes in and wants to talk to us. If we get more than one application, we will come back to town council and say, hey, we've got more than one person who wants to work on this. If we don't, we're hoping you all do not need to make the decision tonight to work with Open Door. So we have this first public input meeting. Then after that would be when you all would consider it. So probably later this winter, we will put together some details for you. We'll probably put together some specific budget items, more information, but we're not that far in the process yet. So just so you know, tonight you don't need to make a decision. It's just to make you aware that we are having these meetings, that we are having this public input session, and later on you'll decide whether or not you want to work with them for real. That would also require a resolution on your part. So there'll be plenty of time for those details to come out later. So, does that make sense to everybody?
It does, and I did have
Okay.
a question about that specific thing. Who does the public hearing? Does Open Door do it, or is the town doing it?
So the way that the process works is there will ultimately have to be two. The first one is is an administrative public hearing, meaning doesn't have to be. It's not with the governing body.
Right.
It's typically it would be staff driven. The PDC would show up. It will be advertised, but you don't have to set that.
Would it be in this building
We
or
would
on the
typically
door?
have it right here.
It is, and the date's been set if you all want to write that down.
And so it's just an administrative public hearing. Then you take those comments if there are any. Seldom, I've been through several of these where, frankly, no one comes. I mean, to be honest. After that, if you receive the comments, you would still have to have a full public hearing with the governing body where you all would set the public hearing. You would host the public hearing. Staff would still be here to assist in explaining what the CDBG grant is, and more about a potential project and that sort of thing. And we would have Mount Rogers PDC here as well to help explain that process. First is administrative. The second one is required to be with the governing body before you make application. Does that make sense?
When is the date?
Right. And I'm sorry, I didn't put it in your packet. We decided it, I think, like right after this went to press. The first date, if you guys are okay with doing this, would be December the 5th at 5 p.m. here in the town council chambers. And the Mount Rogers PDC will be here. Again, you don't have to be here, but if you want to come and learn and listen, you're welcome to.
Will we have issues if more than two come?
I wouldn't think so, as long as you don't talk and discuss and all that. I think because there'll probably be some just information in the room. So,
But I didn't think we could just a few minutes ago. We can't.
I would recommend that you don't. Let me explain that to you. That the Virginia Act that covers meetings says that if three of you are present and discuss at all any town business, that constitutes a meeting. So the challenge would be that if any discussion takes place at all, even with one of you discussing, I think under the law becomes a meeting. So attorneys tend to be extremely careful on that because we don't. The alternative is you can notice it as a meeting. You need to, and then it's okay. But minutes have to be kept and all that kind of stuff.
And well, we have to keep minutes anyway. DHCD requires that. So what I would say as an alternative is that we would share minutes with you. Historically, I don't know if that's how this one will go, so I don't want to predict outcomes and then they'd be different. But historically, these are 2:00 on a Thursday right here, and there's 2 or 3 members of staff, someone from the PDC. And so typically Brian Reed will conduct, is typically who it's been and who has agreed to do it again this time. He will open the public hearing. We'll be here for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and typically no one shows up. He closes the public hearing. There are no comments, but we create a record of it, that the hearing that it took place. Then before you apply, because you will have to have a resolution from the council to make application to DHCD, you will have a full public hearing that'll be on your regular Monday night meeting. It'll just be an agenda item. And you all will set that public hearing. It'll be advertised as a public hearing. And then and that would be months away, months and months away.
I'm familiar with these in other localities. Ordinarily, those initial ones that are done by the regional planning authority, those are not council meetings.
Right.
Just if we come, keep our mouth.
Well,
Don't say no
more than 2. I recommend no more than 2 of you as your attorney.
Yeah, and they just deem them administrative public hearings. Is the way.
That's right, because you're going to have a full-fledged public
Correct.
hearing at the time of your application.
Correct.
That you're here, that anybody can come and address you. So that you have to understand these regulatory authorities. They have their own requirements with regard to public hearings in the early stages before your application that they have to do. And so I've sat through several of these that have been done in the county. So don't think like you're not doing your job by not going, well, all of you not going there. They're not really set up that way because you have your own later.
Thank you, Mr. Casey.
So we just really, for tonight, we just wanted to make sure that you were aware that we were having this just initial conversation. And we're happy to answer any questions. And if you have any input, just let me know. Or if you need additional materials, I can send them to you. Okay?
Any further questions before we move on? Good. All right, we're down to council member time. Mr. Gilman.
I'd like to report a pothole on the Ridge Road right in front of Dick Phillips' driveway.
Oh, he did.
It's getting cheaper every day. All I have.
Vice Mayor?
Nothing at this time.
Seconds?
I did talk to Mr. Freeman, I think Friday, about the crash at the one place.
And I did get an explanation on that, and
No, that's fine.
I'll fill you in.
I just wanted to, no, sir, that's fine. I just wanted to bring that up. There may be some people retiring, maybe in the next 5 years. would like to see if, us as a council, I don't know if I could maybe work with the HR director, looking at some type of retirement package for the employees that may retire, like I said, maybe 5, 10, I'm not for sure what the retirement package is, but would maybe like to do a betterment for them. I'm not sure what it is, but I didn't know if maybe.
Yeah, I think let's, I'm going to think about how to approach this. So let me throw out one idea that came up last year. There was no action taken on it that has been on my mind is with the health insurance supplement for retirees. When that was enacted, an employee had to retire from the town after 25 years of service. And I believe at the time that council was paying, it's a specified amount. It was $300 toward the health insurance premium for a period of 5 years. Is that right, Mike and Sherry? That amount has never changed. And you all might have to help me with the history on how long that's been. 10 years, probably.
At least.
And so that is something that I was planning on discussing with you all during budget time, that might be a starting point, something for us to get on an agenda in December or January as a discussion point on how to maybe amend that policy, because I think that's one that's been out there for a long time that's already part of, for lack of a better term, a package for retirees that's probably overdue for a review. So could I don't want to take away from what you were trying to do in a broader sense, but I think that's one that we should think about sooner.
Well, and I do too. I don't know. Some may get sick and vacation. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly how it rolls. If you get paid all your sick, all your vacation, half your sick or whatever. But that's something I'd like to try to work on.
Okay. Can you and I get together and just share ideas, and then we'll come back at some point. We'll ask the council to consider us on an agenda one night.
Okay, thank you. Oh, hold on. This is me. I got to put my glasses on. That's my time in. I'm sorry. Let's see. I know we had talked one time about the lineators for the town vehicles, public works. Just sort of may want to try to keep that on radar a little bit coming up.
And I think you're talking about like the big reflective.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think they're called lineators. I could be wrong.
Probably so.
And that the tax was going to ask about not on the bonus and an extra day at Thanksgiving. So wow. Sorry. Thank y'all. That was short, wasn't it? Short and sweet.
Well, they're short.
Well, Mayor Taylor, I can find out something else. Hold on, let me check my phone.
Just smile, Mayor. It's okay. It's okay. Just smile. I do have one thing, and I know we discussed this, the parking on Main Street. We were going to look into some other avenues, and I needed to bring this up as promised. But I know that we already had a discussion about that. And I know that you said you were going to look at some other avenues to see.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing problem, I believe.
Yeah. So, and I'll try to give you a quick little a very, very 30-second history of that. This is a topic that does come up probably a few times a year. The last time this came up, I believe we had Lieutenant Bard come in and do sort of an overview of enforcement. And I know that's not the only way to deal with parking. There's a supply. There's usually the perception that there's a supply issue. Sometimes it's, in this case, I think proximity to supply is a little bit of an issue. Then there's the enforcement side that, trying to turn it over. And just for everyone's knowledge, and I won't put Paul on the spot, but he probably has some familiarity with this. The marking of tires went away probably 3 to 5 years ago. I don't remember specifically, because it was deemed a Fourth Amendment illegal search and seizure by the Supreme Court. So basically what they ruled is that when it's okay if we want to look at your tag and look at your car and remember that you were there at 9 a.m. and come back at 11, but as soon as we touch the vehicle, we've begun an investigation, which is against the Fourth Amendment. So that the town's way of doing that just went away with that. The town had done away with meters, Mike, 20 years ago, 25 or 30 years ago. And so, and then when these things, yeah, and so there you go. So, long time ago. So the town had just dug up Main Street and put it all back when these issues started being discussed again. And so there really wasn't much appetite for going back to metering because of the installation and all that sort of thing. I think we can try to figure out how to have another discussion about it and try to figure out what else we can do. That it is a real challenge for every downtown, and the better you get at filling up storefronts, the bigger challenge it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all. Vice Mayor, I was going to request the December 22nd full day off. She's already taken care of that over there. So I don't have anything else, but I do reserve the right to come back if I need to. Thank you so much.
Well, I have one thing, please, sir. Wytheville County Community Hospital is requesting an additional handicap parking spot in the area at the corner of 4th and Main. I think I brought it up when you guys all were out with COVID, and so we didn't really discuss it.
Yeah, and that's going to be a tough one. I did task some staff with providing me some analysis on that, and what I'd like to do is just circulate that to you all in an email to show you the challenges there. I have not. I sent it to a member staff who sent me back an analysis on it. I have not had a chance to meet with him one-on-one to say, can these things be overcome? So I don't want to say it can't be done, but I'd like to circulate his analysis to you all, and then I'll have a one-on-one with him to see if there's other ways to overcome.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mayor Tyler, I didn't mean to go in front of you earlier, I'm sorry. Now, we don't do anything with the parking up at the hospital, like the doctor's office up there?
No, this is a medical office that they have down, or I shouldn't say medical, just a facility that they have on Main Street.
It is an office, doctor's office.
Gotcha.
Well, I was up there one time at the wound clinic, and I noticed that there was some parking that maybe could have been added for handicapped people or elderly, because it's such a distance.
Yeah, and just briefly, I think it's fine to say that what was recommended by staff to me is that it would be better if they could address that on site, because they do have a parking lot. Because we already have one space there. The challenge for us is that whenever we put in an ADA space, we need to make sure that you can get out of your vehicle and get to a ramp with unimpeded. If you've got to step over curbs, go around the back of other vehicles before you can get to a ramp, then you really haven't met the intent. I mean,
I haven't looked at it, and I think the back parking lot is still the government agency or whatever is still in that office space too, and they have their cars and stuff in the back. So I don't know. And they just reached out again today to see.
Okay. We'll try to follow up with them, but I'll send you all that analysis.
That's good. We're done. All right. So at this point, council sees the need to go into closed session. I would need a motion to hold a closed meeting pursuant to 2.2-3711A3, discussion regarding acquisition, disposition of real property to be used for public purpose. So I need a motion. A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Yes, no. Is this, before you didn't say any discussion, so is this what we previously discussed?
I believe so.
I thought we put it to rest in a previous meeting.
Somebody's bringing it back. We didn't vote to put it to rest, but we just didn't go any further.
We keep going over the same thing. I thought we were all together the last time. So do we just need to vote on it?
I think we need to vote whether or not we're going to close session or not. We have, I might have to ask the attorney.
Yes, the motion that's pending on the floor, there was a motion and a second to go into closed section for 3711A3, real property acquisition. So that vote is pending. So, Mayor, I would suggest that you conduct that vote at this time.
Can I ask a real quick question? Because I was thinking, I think, and I could be wrong, when we had talked about before, there was like 3 no's and then, I guess 2 yeses. So, we can still go back and talk about it even though like the majority at the
But we
time.
didn't vote on
We
it.
didn't
It was
vote.
just dialogue.
Remember all things that are discussed in the executive session, there are no formal votes that are binding
Oh,
on
okay,
council.
okay.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
when you come out in open session, if you were to do that,
And we
that would
can
be a
vote
different
on it.
story.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I apologize, I was wrong, but,
Mayor, I think you still need your vote on your executive session.
So all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
I'll hear what y'all have to say.
For what?
I'll hear, and then that's fine.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes, so we will now reconvene. Does anybody need 3 minutes for a restroom break?
Yes, please.
economic development.
The housing rehab zone?
No, yes.
Okay, we'll get you that.
Thank you.
Can we go ahead and come up? Town council is now in open session. Council is now in open session. Motion is necessary to certify that only matters lawfully convening the open session were discussed. So I'll need a motion.
So moved.
A motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion before we vote? All right, so this is going to be a roll call vote.
Mayor Taylor, can you, I'm sorry, can you discuss what we're voting on?
Coming out of
closed
session.
Oh,
We're
I'm
just
sorry.
coming out before we
Okay.
have any other.
I'm
dialogue.
sorry, I apologize. I was listening, I promised it. Didn't want to miss something. I apologize.
All right, roll call vote. Councilwoman Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Edison, aye.
Gilman, aye.
All right, we are now in open session.
I think we might need to open this door because it looks like.
I think the next step would be Kathy, would be to, and then they'll have, and then they can have whoever wants any dialogue with them.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make two motions tonight. The first one pursuant to 2.2-3711A, discussion regarding disposition of real property. The motion is to offer the property at the Stafford Umberger Drive to the interested party at the amount authorized, subject to approval by council after a public hearing. If unsuccessful, prepare an RFP for a real estate agent selected by council.
So I have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any dialogue? Hearing none, let's do a roll call vote. We'll start with you, Mr. Gilman.
Gilman, aye.
Edison, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
The second motion pursuant to 2.2-3711A3, discussion regarding the acquisition of real property. The motion is to set a public hearing to consider the proposed acquisition of property for $200,000 at 1035 North 4th Street.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sorry.
We see the thing for the January 8th, 2024 meeting. Pardon, set a public hearing for the January 8th, 2020.
Set at the
At the January 8th.
at the January 8th council meeting. Public hearing.
Can you read the motion again?
The motion is to set a public hearing to consider the proposed acquisition of property for $200,000 at 1035 North 4th Street
At the January.
at the January 8th public hearing.
So is everybody clear on that motion? Now we can do it again.
You want me to read it one more time?
So we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Motion and discussion. Now any discussion?
I just want to make sure, Mayor Taylor, that this is just for the public hearing. It's not to vote to purchase or anything. It's just to set the public hearing to get the
Correct.
community's involvement in it.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other concerns, questions, dialogue? If not, we're going to go to a vote. It's going to be a roll call vote. And we'll start with Councilwoman Jack Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Yeah, man,
Is there any other information that needs to come before council? Good. Everybody's adjourned. We are adjourned.
Have a good